All right, everyone. And this is in this 40K Yap session, and I do apologize as in advance for not having any 40K stuff in the background when I do these kind of Yap sessions. It's more of just unscripted, like always, my thoughts on something. But this is gonna be about legends, just least as a concept. Now, legends as a concept, I don't think is like a terrible thing. Like, the idea of like shuffling something out of being able to be played in like your standard or like competitive stuff. I get it. Card games do it. Like Magic the Gathering does it, Yu-Gi-Oh does it. You have games like Hearthstone that do it. I understand. Even if I dislike it personally, where it's like, oh, my favorite deck, of cards or favorite way of playing gets kind of put into Legends or put into Wild, and I have to deal with other stuff. Yeah, it sucks. But in the case of 40K with Legends as a concept, I think that on one hand it's fine because realistically you can't expect GW to balance everything and keep it all balanced. But on the other hand, it's like, well, you know when they send certain things to Legends, it's like, okay, but why? Why not just keep them in the keep them in the codex, or keep them available and then use them? An example being in my mind would be Caldor Drago for the Grey Knights. With his codex release, or with the Grey Knights codex release, Caldor Drago got sent to Legends. Now, I, maybe along with other people, would think that, oh, well, Caldor Drago probably will be, if he does come back like as a unit that you can use on the tabletop, he'll probably come back whenever Grey Knights get a model range refresh. Like, let's just say like 2 years from now, right? Like Copium, I know, but still, that's cool and all, right? Like, if like doing that, but at that point, why not just keep him around, right? It's not like GW haven't done in the past this whole thing of, they make a unit, and then sometime in the future, however many like years or months go along, said unit gets its data sheet rewritten, and or it gets a new model to go alongside that. And so I feel like, in the case of Caldor Drago, it's like you guys could have kept him, and you guys, they could have kept his rules more or less as is, and then when in the future, like a year or so from now, whenever big things for Grey Knights happen, oh, he gets a new model and he gets a new data sheet. Sick. Along with the other Grey Knight units that are getting new models and potentially data sheet changes or whatever that makes sense in that case, or that makes more sense. The other thing with like Legends, and what I personally don't really care too much for, is certain like Horus Heresy units. Now, I know of Horus Heresy, it's a whole thing of it's a separate game system. Yeah, it's set in the same setting, even if it's 10,000 years beforehand. You can't expect a Fellblade or a Relic Contemptor Dreadnought to be like something you're going to see on the normal day-to-day battlefield in a 40K battle, right? That is true, and that is understandable. But at least in some cases, from what I can tell, is you have units in Legends that could probably really benefit certain factions that they go alongside with in the current day. Like, maybe in the case of Chaos Space Marines, they could really use a big battle tank esque unit like a Spartan heavy assault tank, or like, heaven forbid, a Mastodon. Right now, sure, a Spartan heavy assault tank isn't necessary. Being able to transport 28 models for, I think it's like 300 and something points. What army is going to use that? Right? Why not just take two rhinos to transport 24 models total, and bam, there you go. I don't know. But options are never a bad thing. On top of the fact being that some units, like the Spartan heavy assault tank, have pretty scary, or not scary, but it's like, respectable weapon profiles, or even abilities. I think there being more variety would be nice. And then, of course, like I've said before in a previous video talking about dreadnoughts, I think, like, in the case of Chaos Space Marines, having access to dreadnoughts would be sick. Yeah, oh, you guys have Hellbrutes. Hellbrutes aren't quite the same. Aesthetically, they're not the same, but also just functionally, they are not the same. That also depends on what Chaos Space Marine / Chaos Cult Marine army you're playing. If you're playing CSM, Hellbrutes are good for getting lethal and sustained hits when you Dark Pact a unit. World Eaters are good for being able to have like multiple activations, either during or in between turns, or on like the opponent's turn. It just as an example. Now I know there's the whole thing of, oh, well, just because something goes into Legends, right? Just because Caldor Drago goes to Legends, or heaven forbid Pedro Cantor gets into Legends in the near future. Just because these units may go into the Legends in the future, or are in Legends now, doesn't mean that you still can't use them. That is true. You still can use your Caldor Drago model with datasheet in your Grey Knights army. You can still use whatever Legends model, or like Exalted Champion, I think it was, for Chaos Space Marines in your army. You can still use all those stuff. It's just you have to then go through the extra like level, like hoops, I guess you could say, of talking with other people, communicating with other people, basically like, hey, I'm using, these things, and this is my army list, and it has these Legends models. Obviously, if you're going to like a tournament, like if you're going to like LVO or the London Grand Tournament, yeah, like you're not going to be able to use Legends models. Like you're crazy for trying, I guess. But that's not the point. The point is just more of like, the way I get it, at least my interpretation of this is, when things are made legend or wild, like in card games or in this case, Warhammer, it's not that you can't play that stuff, but tournament play / standard play is inevitably it's going to trickle down into how the casual, normal environment of the game is played. So in a like tournament setting, these things are legend, you can't use them. Okay, cool, great. That doesn't stop people from using them in like their casual at-home games, but the chances are, in most content or media that they may consume, if they do consume that kind of content, like on YouTube and whatnot, they're playing with the standard like tournament-esque kind of rules, and that then bleeds over into your at-home play, or your your local game store play, right? And and there's that. The support, I guess you could say, for like Legends stuff, as far as my knowledge is concerned of this, it's just not there. Whereas with the standard play, what's currently not wild or not Legends is just, that's just going to be persistent. And now, yeah, some things are going to go be sent to Legends that you think, oh, they would never send that to Legends. Like the day, like Rhino for Space Marines, everyone kind of maybe jokes around about how like, it's probably not going to happen, but like it probably will happen. The Rhino for Space Marines probably will be sent to Legends. That doesn't mean that GW are going to stop making it, or they're going to stop producing it, because Chaos Space Marines still use the Rhino. Death Guard use the Rhino. All the Chaos Space Marine armies still utilize the Rhino. That's never going to go away. If GW sent the Land Raider and its variants for the Loyalist armies to Legends, then yeah, that sucks. And I mean, like, that'd be a big death blow to me, because I'd be like, my Land Raider. But Chaos Space Marines can still use it, or still use the base Land Raider. It doesn't in that case, it doesn't get rid of it, doesn't do anything, I guess you say substantial, but it's like you lose stuff. And that's also the other thing is I think with some units that get sent to Legends, you lose variety in your army. You lose something that could be just like a little bit like spicy, a little bit like extra zing to whatever you're running. I don't know. I'm someone who has only 10th edition experience in 40k. I've never dabbled too much of looking into Legends besides looking at the Horus Heresy models and being like, damn, Fellblades are really cool, or Macedons are freaking sick. That's the level of my experience of like looking into Legend stuff is concerned. I'm sure people who've been in this hobby, playing it and collecting for decades, have stronger opinions than I about certain things and certain wishes. I 100% get where I can understand where GW are coming from with sending certain things to Legends and whatnot, but yeah, it's always a feels bad. It's a feels bad thing when your favorite unit or a keystone kind of unit of your army just gets like sent away basically, and you can't do anything about that other than just being like, well, I either play Legends or I maybe completely redo my list. But yeah. But with that, guys, that's just it's a little. This is a little rant and ramble about 40k thoughts. Yap session, woo! We love Yap sessions. Not as long as the previous ones. These are all just like I said before, off the cuff. Just hey, this is a thought. This is something I've not rambled about or I've not really like thought too much about. As I said, I don't have too much experience with Legends units. I'm not someone who's been personally affected by this at all, because I only until recently started collecting the minis. I only recently started playing, even if I do play on Tabletop Simulator. I know this is something that affects people who've been, in the hobby for a lot longer than I. But feel free to comment down below what your thoughts are on Legends, just as a concept. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you wish that there was more? I guess you could say like support around Legends as a thing. Do you wish that GW would take some units out of Legends and give them to their respective factions properly? Feel free to comment down below in the comment section about that. Feel free to always, as always, comment and let me know if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. I know these Yap sessions are kind of whatever. They're not really watched too much. It's just more of a, getting thoughts out there kind of thing. And if you like the video, if you like it, dislike if you dislike it. It's no big deal. Feel free to share the video and subscribe. Once again, no big deal if you don't. Is what it is. But hope you guys have a great time wherever you may find yourself, whether you're at home, at work, or at school, or you're on your way home from both of those to go home. Hope you're having a great time. If not, hope things can turn around and get better for you. But until the next time, guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.